Hi everyone, Spider-Man 1991 here, and today I'm doing a Villains Month special, which is I'm going to review all the issues from all the villain themed issues that I bought from DC Comics over the course of Villains Month. As you know, Villains Month was pretty much the big launch for their new event, Forever Evil, which is the crime syndicate has taken over the DC universe, and now all the ongoing DC series are put on hold. Each issue has been a .1 issue, and they've been taken over by villains. And most of them have had 3D covers. Now, the story behind the 3D covers is that DC Comics did have an idea to have both 3D and 2D covers, but they didn't have enough of the 3D paper, so the 3D covers are in limited supply. And so if you were lucky enough, you got a 3D cover. If not, you just got stuck with 2D. But enough about that. Let's get into what I bought. And I did about a month ago, I did post a video where I talked about the list of Villains Month issues I was going to get. Fortunately, pretty much I was able to get everything, but with a few exceptions. Well, actually no, everything was bought. It's just, I'll explain in a minute. With Justice League number 23.1 or Darkseid number 23.1. This is the only issue on my list that I was unable to get a 3D cover for. Unbelievable. It's Darkseid. He's firing the Omega Beams. The 3D cover for this would be awesome, but it didn't come, and it's a shame because in the first week of Villains Month, this was my favorite issue because it gave us an origin of It showed how Darkseid turned from this mud farmer. It's true, he was a mud farmer named I hope I'm saying this right, Uxas. And he eventually killed all of the gods, and by killing the gods, he absorbed their powers. And because the old gods were dying, one of them also granted his brother-in-law, Isaiah, who became High Father, the leader of the new gods on New Genesis. And eventually, and also because of the power, Uxas became Darkseid. And eventually that pretty much made them the new gods, and then the whole war happened, and then eventually their planet was destroyed, and New Genesis and Apocalypse came from that. Also, we learn how Darkseid discovered the multiverse, which does tie into a character I believe appeared in Batman Superman. Pretty much, once Darkseid discovered the multiverse, he also discovered that each Earth had a champion who had great power, and that was Superman. And that's why Darkseid's obsessed with Superman. It's because he can't stand having someone else with this much power. So pretty much Darkseid's traveled the multiverse. He's fought and killed several Supermen. And pretty much the last page of this is like a bunch of like a dead Superman being hooked up to some machine, and a bunch of other Superman corpses right beside it. It's really an interesting story. I mean, to me, the Villains Month issues had two objectives. They were either going to tie into Forever Evil or give us more backstory or insight into the character. And I think that's what this one. And I think this one definitely achieved the latter. Gave us Darkseid's origin. It showed us why he wants to take down Superman. I thought it was great. You know, personally, I first encountered Darkseid in the Superman the Animated Series. I've always kind of saw him as a Superman villain, and I think this issue perfectly says that he's not just a villain of the DC Universe, he particularly does want to go after Superman. I would say definitely buy. If you can get the 3D cover, yes, please. This is the only one I didn't get 2D cover. This is the only one I didn't get a 3D cover for. I'm disappointed, but hey, it was a great issue. Definitely a buy. Next up, Green Lantern number 23.1, or Relic number 1. This one tells us Relic's origin. Basically, he was a being of the universe right before the old universe, right before the Big Bang happened. And in this old universe, there were people who were kind of like the Lanterns, except they used staffs to help wield the light, and they were known as, I believe, lightsmiths. And apparently each light also had different emotion. I didn't really write down which ones they were, but eventually, though, Relic was this scientist who proposed an idea that, you know, the light has to come from somewhere, from this reservoir, and eventually it is going to run out. And so, pretty much everyone in this universe relied on the lightsmiths, and of course, they didn't believe Relic. And so Relic eventually went on a search for the universe to try to find this hidden reservoir of light. He didn't find it, but then eventually what happened was the lights were starting to dim. The lightsmiths were losing their powers. Eventually, they got into a big war over who can control all of the light, and that's what led to the universe's destruction. Eventually, though, Relic did survive the war, and he wound up being attached to the God Wall, which allowed him to survive the Big Bang and come to our universe, but he was still in stasis. And eventually he was discovered by Kyle Rayner and the leftover Guardians. And I think that happens in Green Lantern New Guardians, and now Relic is free. And this time he swears he won't let what happened to the old universe happen to this one, which in this case means he's going to destroy all the Lantern Corps. Okay, Relic number 1 I thought was very good. I think the whole Villains Month thing was a perfect time for Robert Venditti to introduce who this new antagonist he's creating for the Green Lantern store, for the Green Lantern and Green Lantern New Guardians title, to give us a perfect opportunity to see who this character is. Also, I think this is a good issue for anyone who's currently reading Green Lantern and or New Guardians as well, and also if you're going to get all the issues for the Lights Out crossover next month, which will happen through all the Green Lantern books. Relic number 1. I mean, I would say get it if you're going to get War of Light, or if you're still reading Green Lantern or GL New Guardians. But other than that, I would say maybe just borrow it from a friend. If not, just borrow it from a friend. Okay, next up, a popular villain. Batman number 23.1, the Joker number 1. Do you want to read a story about where Joker trains a chimp sidekick? No? Then skip it. Seriously, that's all this issue is. No insight about the Joker character or anything. Doesn't tie into Forever Evil. It's just Joker training a monkey. Skip it. Oh, and it's in the past, so he still has his face. Again, Joker number 1. If you're going to buy this for the cover, for the 3D cover alone, yeah, go ahead. Just do it on eBay because it might be less expensive. Other than that, skip it. Next up, Batman number 23.2, the Riddler number 1. The Riddler in this issue, Riddler breaks into Wayne Tower just for the hell of it. He does it for two reasons. One is that he wants to get revenge on an old Arkham guard who's now working as a security guard in Wayne Towers, George Lesky. He gets his revenge by blowing up the dude's right arm. And the other objective is that basically Riddler did this just to kill time because he heard that the Justice League is dead, but he doesn't believe that. He believes Batman is alive and Batman will come back. So right now, Riddler, he's just, as he put it, he's just killing time till his greatest opponent comes back. Alright, this issue was written by Scott Snyder. I got it because Zero Year, Scott Snyder's obviously going to have Riddler play some sort of prominent role in that. But this issue is very great. I definitely have like a new point of view. It really is interesting. I think before this, the Riddler, I didn't think much of a threat, but now I think since he's been reimagined by Scott Snyder as this sort of hacker, and I think Riddler is a lot more computer savvy these days. So I think that's great, especially since we're living in the digital age. He's the perfect. I think that's a good foe for Batman. Also no indication about what his role in Zero Year was. But yeah, overall, I would say if you're reading Zero Year, you may want to pick this up. If not, otherwise, just borrow it from a friend. Alright, next up, something I really liked from writer Jeff Johns, Aquaman number 23.1, or Black Manta number 1. Pretty much, Black Manta's talking to Amanda Waller. She's trying to convince him to join the Suicide Squad. Manta doesn't want to. Of course, though, Waller then asks him the question, you're doing this to kill Aquaman. So what's going to happen once Aquaman's finally dead? Then the crime syndicate starts their breakout plan, and everyone in Bel Rep goes free. Black Manta grabs his equipment. He hears about the meeting with the crime syndicate near the ruins of the Watchtower. He goes there, and he sees that. And, of course, this is when the crime syndicate's giving them their big speech. They also toss out the items of the Justice League members who are supposedly dead, which includes Aquaman's Triton. Basically, when Manta sees the Triton, he just grabs the Triton and just leaves right after that. Like, he doesn't care. And he goes and visits his father's grave and tells him that it's over, Aquaman's dead, I don't know what to do now. Then suddenly, there's an earthquake, and it turns out there's this giant tidal wave coming down because Ultraman Superman's Earth 3 counterpart moved the moon in front of the sun because the sun hurts him. And because of that, the tide got all messed up, and so basically a giant tidal wave came over the surface, and it washed up and completely destroyed Black Manta's father's remains. And so once Mantis sees this underwater, as soon as he gets up, he decides that now he wants revenge on the crime syndicate for what they did to his father's grave. And all this happens right parallel to Forever Evil #1. And at the end it says, to see more of Black Manta's war on the crime syndicate, check out Forever Evil. I thought this was great. It gave us insight into Black Manta's character. You know, Manta is a villain who's just coded by revenge. He wants to kill Aquaman. His main objective, the only thing he cares about, is killing Aquaman. That's what he wants. What happens when Aquaman's dead? Well, he doesn't know what to do until he finds a way to redirect his anger towards the crime syndicate. So I think that's this definitely made Black Manta a lot more interesting character in my eyes. If you enjoyed Jeff Johns' run on Aquaman, I would say this is definitely a buy. If you're going to get Forever Evil, this is also another reason to buy this. Very great. Next up, Aquaman 23.2 Ocean Master #1. Pretty much this one begins at the same time as Black Manta #1, the Breakout Belle Reve. Ocean Master gets his gear, then he starts heading towards the ocean to head back to Atlantis. On his way, he saves the life of a woman who's being attacked by 2 convicts who also broke out. Of course, though, he's still continuing to the ocean, and the woman he saved is asking for his help because she needs to find her son. She's worried about him. Orm refuses. He says, I only want to get back to my kingdom. Of course, she says that, why did you save me even if you were just going to let my son die? And, and right when Orm's making his way back to the ocean, he's kind of hearing the woman finding her son. Then she gets attacked by 2 convicts, and her kid's endangered. And right when Orm gets in the ocean, he goes down underwater. Then suddenly he comes right back up and says, 8 years old is too young to die, and he heads back to go help the woman and her son. I thought that was pretty interesting. Ocean Master, he really doesn't see... up until this point, we know that Ocean Master attacked the surface. Everyone thought it was him, but it wasn't. Now, apparently... But obviously you can see... But they did have a flashback to the beginning, right around the beginning of the War of Atlantis, where Ocean Master says that he's doing all this for the sake of his people. He doesn't really have any personal vendetta against the surface world. He just cares about Atlantis, the kingdom. So pretty much... right after he breaks out, Orm only wants to get back to Atlantis, but as soon as he's doing this, he's kind of, thinking that he should go save this kid. At the end, though, he realizes that he should go help this kid and his mother out. So, I think this is very interesting. I think it's tells us that Orm isn't really a character isn't a black and white character. He's not good or bad. He's just in this sort of gray area where he'll do whatever it takes for the sake of Atlantis, but he does have some decency in him, which we've seen towards the end of this. So I would say Ocean Master #1. I would recommend you buy this if you loved his Orm in the War of Atlantis story arc. But other than that, or if you've been reading Aquaman, then get this issue. Other than that, you can just borrow it from a friend. All right, next up. Flash #23.2, Reverse Flash #1. This is basically the origin story for Danny West, how he got his powers, his abuse, what it was like for him and Iris West growing up with their abusive alcoholic father, and how apparently Daniel's mom died in childbirth with him, and because of that, his father blamed him for her death, and also apparently Daniel got his Speed Force powers during the whole guerrilla war crossover. Right when the Rogues brought in civilians to the Mirror World and they were collecting money from them, Daniel fought back a little, and he collided with a Speed Force battery, which gave him the Reverse Flash abilities. And so pretty much the issue is being told in reverse, starting with the beginning of how Daniel got his powers, how him meeting his father after he's released from prison, then how he got his powers, then meeting with Iris, then back to their childhood, where right when this issue ends, though, we see right when young Iris and Daniel Daniel's pretty much living in the woods because he doesn't want to go home, and of course Iris convinces him to go home. But when they get home, when they arrive, they see the Reverse Flash there killing their father with the Flash, who's kind of like on the ground because his energy's being siphoned off by the Reverse Flash. So yeah, I would say this was a pretty good issue. I mean, I've been reading the current Reverse Flash story arc going on in the Flash series right now, and it's been pretty great. I think this was a very great issue to that story arc too, because it does give us, finally tell us like how Daniel got his powers, why is he doing all this stuff like that. Pretty much this is the exact definition of what Point One issue is, in that it gives you character background. Also, it's definitely a good tie-in for anyone reading the Reverse Flash story arc going on in the Flash series right now. Definitely a buy if you're reading that story arc. Otherwise, just wait for the trade. Alright, next up, Lex Luthor #1, or Action Comics number 23.3. It starts off with Lex Luthor being released from prison, and right when Luthor is leaving, he notices that Superman isn't there, which kind of surprises him because he figured Superman would be here to stop me, to keep an eye on me. And so, right when Luthor gets back to his skyscraper office, at the beginning of when we saw Luthor in the current New 52 continuity, he had some scars on like the left side of his face, like not like Two-Face or anything, but just like around the left side of his chin, right along here. And now, the first thing he does when he gets out of prison and gets back to his office is apparently he gets the scars repaired. So no more scars, everything's symmetrical. And he tests out his battle suit, and he tells his engineers that there's like at least 15 ways you can improve it. Figure out 5 by the end of the day, or you're fired. And also, this is the big, really interesting point of this issue, but Lex apparently has a shuttle crew fake an accident, like while they're in space, and apparently he wants them to send an incoming emergency message saying, "We're in danger, we can't get out, help us, Superman." Like, he wants them to specifically call for Superman. And when Superman doesn't show up, Lex's assistant says, "Oh, obviously you're going to save them, Mr. Luthor, that way you'll look like the hero and Superman won't." And Luthor says, "I could do that." But instead, he lets the crew die. Like, he just pretty much hits the dead switch on the shuttle, it comes crashing down, the crew dies, and it's pretty much answering the question, if Lex Luthor had the opportunity to make himself look like a hero or make Superman look like a failure, he'll go for the latter instead of the former. I thought that was definitely a good point of the issue. That was definitely the defining moment that shows us what kind of man Lex Luthor is. I mean, Lex Luthor, he's the kind of guy who won't stop at nothing to get what he wants. In this case, either discredit Superman or destroy him. And in the end, the final scene of this issue takes place right before the first scene in Forever Evil #1, which I thought was a great tie to Forever Evil. It also is a great insight into Lex Luthor. I mean, if Lex Luthor is your favorite Superman villain, he's mine. You should definitely get this issue. It's amazing. And finally, Green Lantern number 23.4, or Sinestro #1. The story is told from the point of view of Lysa Drac, who, since she no longer has the Book of Black or the Book of Parallax, she's pretty much recorded the entire history of Sinestro on her skin, so to speak. And pretty much, while she's recapping this for the reader, we're seeing how Sinestro first found his Green Lantern power ring, how he was inducted into the Green Lantern Corps, how he used the ring itself to help take over Korugar, and also how Hal Jordan, when he brought Hal Jordan to Korugar, Hal called him in on that and called in a bunch of other Lanterns to take Sinestro down. And pretty much after that, the final scene of this issue, though, also Lysa Drac is right near Korugar as she's recapping this story, and right when she talks about it, she says that there are still Kordanians out there, and they will need Sinestro. We see a Kordanian ship fly by, and 2 Kordanians saying, "Oh no, Korugar is really gone," and that's pretty much where it ends. I liked this issue. It was great. It gave us a lot more insight into Sinestro's past. I definitely recommend, if you love Sinestro, believe me, I have been reading Green Lantern. I've read Green Lantern a lot. Sinestro, when Jeff Johns wrote the title Sinestro, made Sinestro my favorite, one of my favorite. This issue is definitely a buy. Not just for Green Lantern fans, but also Sinestro fans. And it also goes into a little more details about a few things that people don't really ask about. We know that Hal Jordan took. It kind of gives us more detail about what happened when how Sinestro exactly used his ring. Apparently, he used the ring to help make this huge broadcast signal to help sort of influence people. Then he invented the robot guards and took over Corgo, or also Hal Jordan taking him down. We got a little more detail into that. And also there was a question that people should have asked themselves: what happened when Sinestro found the ring? In a way, it was a lot like how Hal Jordan found his ring. Was that apparently we have the Green Lantern of Sinestro's sector crash nearby. Sinestro goes to investigate. The GL is dying, and of course, but unlike Hal Jordan, Wepner from Cord was apparently responsible for the attack. He and Sinestro fight, and the ring does go to Sinestro, and the GL does send the ring to Sinestro so that he could use it to fight the Weaponer, and of course Sinestro won. And right after that, though, apparently Sinestro killed the GL so that the ring wouldn't go back to him and he could keep it and be inducted into the Corps. So, yeah, that was pretty impressive. Sinestro number 1, or Green Lantern 23.4, like I said, definitely a buy. It's truly amazing. Okay, that's it for my Villains Month video. These are pretty much all the issues I got. Some I didn't hear about until afterwards, though. If you try, I will say this though, I'm pretty sure if you go to a comic book shop to try to find these issues, they'll still have the 2D covers in stock, but if you want to get the 3D covers, you could try eBay, but some people will have outrageous prices for the 3D covers. I gotta be honest, they probably will overcharge you. But yeah, overall, those are all the Green Lantern issues. All the Villains Month issues. Sorry, I read this month. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. I should have my video for September 2013 up within a day or so. So thank you. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Spider-Man 1991 saying see you later.